Hello, my name is Jeff, and you are looking at a 1999 Mercedes-Benz G320 three-door short wheelbase, which was sold new by AMG Japan as a left-hand drive model and was then imported into Canada and now the United States. This vehicle has less than 88,000 original kilometers, that's less than 55,000 miles US, and it's now for sale. It's heading up for auction on bringatrailer.com, where it will be selling with no reserve as offered from Casio Motors. And in this video, I'll take you through the exterior, the interior, the powertrain, and of course, we'll take it for a drive. Getting right into it, here is the key for our Jalopy or G-Wagon infrared sensor, typical of Mercedes for the time with the switchblade style key. Also called the G-Wagon or G-Class for short, these vehicles were offered as luxury full-time four-wheel drive boxy SUVs, and they were offered in a couple different body shapes. This one in particular being the very desirable three-door because of the side doors and the rear hatch short wheelbase model. So this is a very cool example that also has a very exciting story to it. If we take a look at the exterior in the rear particular here, we actually have some really cool badges. This one here on the right that says, I believe, Yanasi. I could be murdering that, I apologize. But that is actually a chain of Japanese dealerships that are as infamous as Toyota, Honda, etc. overseas, very popular for selling vehicles. Over here on the left side, we have an AMG Japan badge, and this is perhaps the coolest exterior mark. And that is because of how this vehicle was imported to Japan. Now, this one is a left-hand drive short wheelbase model. Now, if you didn't know, in Japan, they drive on the other side of the road. So typically their vehicles have the steering wheel on the right side of the vehicle. That's not the case here. From my understanding, in Japanese culture, it is considered a very luxurious thing, very, orderly, high up, very posh to actually have a foreign or imported vehicle with the steering wheel on the other side of the road. And so that's what this vehicle would have been. And now that it's been imported here to the United States, well, that means now the wheel is on the correct side of the vehicle, which would make it really easy to drive, especially with the very low mileage on this particular vehicle. The other cool thing about the G-Wagon or Jalopy is it owes its roots to military vehicles. And that's the reason that it's kind of got this very utilitarian shape to it, but also makes it so off-road capable. Why a lot of people buy them as luxury SUVs, because they are nice on the inside. Underneath, you might have noticed, there is plenty of ground clearance. And in the front here, we even have this nice bash plate, which is, of course, metal to protect the vehicle while off-roading. And behind that, you'll notice the three differentials, which can also be individually locked using controls in the interior that I will show you later. You can also see that the side profile of the vehicle, the short wheelbase in particular, is excellent for approach and departure angles, and the short wheelbase makes it even better for taking off-road. The rear has also more of that locking differential, some extra protection plates, mud guards, all that type of stuff as well. So these are actually some of the best off-road vehicles that you can buy new, and they also just happen to be very luxurious and look great from that boxy shape. Now, moving on to some of the other details, this one in particular is finished in black opal pearl, which has a little bit of this sort of bluish, purplish, blurplish tint to it in the sun, and you can see all of the metallic flake here on the nice sharp hood. Looking at the front of the vehicle, the grille and even these side fender flares are finished in a matte black finish, so is this front bumper. The H4 headlights here actually have these grille protectors, which is a pretty cool rugged detail. You can note the Mercedes TriStar in the front and the Mercedes-Benz badges on top. Turn signals on the side, lower fog lights with a mount for a front license plate. As we continue to move around the side of the vehicle, of course, fairly high, fairly stout 5-spoke 16-inch Mercedes-Benz wheels with large disc brakes behind those, wrapped in these nice Continental tires, which you can see are so new, they still have the whiskers poking out on the sides of them. Coil sprung suspension that sits fairly high up. You can see everything underneath has actually been coated, so that's as it would have come from the factory there. As we continue moving down, lots of black trim. We have the wheel side steps, quite nice to have to get into this vehicle, which can be a bit tall. We have some nice dark windows, power adjustable mirrors, big wipers, nice tall figure to it. Same setup in the back as far as the wheels and tires goes. And in the rear, we have a tire carrier along with our wipers, our cool badges, and of course, more of those bumpers. Moving on to the interior, if we open it up and close it for good measure, Oh, that is so satisfying. One of the many pleasures and privileges of owning a G-Wagon. This particular G-Wagon features a black leather interior with a gray patterned roof, and you may have noticed there are 2 rows of seats in this short wheelbase, which seats a total of 5. And the way you get back there is actually quite clever. It's through this mechanism down here. You go ahead and lift it up, and the entire seat actually moves up and out of the way to make for easy ingress and egress for anybody that's sitting in the back. So now I'm sitting in the back seat of the G320, and as you can see here, there is plenty of headroom. I'm 6 foot even for reference, and I can fit back here. You also get your own special lights and even a handlebar to hold while you're off-roading. The seats themselves are fairly plush and are quite comfortable. You could sit back here for an extended amount of time. The back seat passengers, which you can fit about 2 people total, also get their own speakers, sort of armrests, and they even get their own 12-volt and cigarette empty ashtray back here. So it's a pretty simple but luxurious enough experience for those in the back, but of course the back seats here of these seats are actually reinforced. They're sort of armored, if you will, so when you lay them down they don't get damaged, which is pretty smart engineering on behalf of Mercedes here in the back seat. Moving back up to the front, the cool features start before you even get in. Look at all of these cool Japanese stickers and script on the side. My favorite is this AMG plate here, which actually says G model G320 short wheelbase. Very, very cool. There's some more stuff here on the inside of the door, and even some Japanese instructions for the cruise control that this G320 is equipped with. Below that, you may have noticed this device here. This is actually the toll communication device, not so important here in the States, but very, very important for vehicles from Japan, and often an item you'll find on vehicles which have been imported. Looking at the rest of it, we do have these nice leather seats which are heavily bolstered here on the sides, helps to hold you in place for driving on the road and off-road. Very, very plush as far as the main seat goes. They are in fact power adjustable and heated. For the front seats, it's going to be both of them there. You get a leather trimmed steering wheel with the Mercedes TriStar. You can see all of the finish here for the doors, door handles, our lighting controls on the side, the vents for our air conditioning, which blows nice and cold. And if we climb inside the vehicle, we can take a look at everything else that's going on. Once we close the door, we will hear nothing of the outside world. We can go ahead and start this vehicle up. You can see all these seatbelt lights and everything that comes to life. And we can also see the current kilometer mileage for the vehicle, or kilometerage, that's available for this. So it's just under 88,000 miles. That's less than 55,000 miles on the odometer. You can see they are German VDO gauges, a very German thing to have. You have your speedo in the front, tack to the right, and your temp and gas tank gauges off to the left. Of course, you get those cruise control, but you also get turn signals, windshield wipers, etc. Over here on the right side, we have a handhold bar for the passenger, more AC vents. We, of course, get a glove box. The more interesting buttons, again, with more Japanese instructions for the windshield wipers, defrosters, hazards, lights, and even the wiper cleaners for the headlights. Here in the middle, we have the controls for our 3 locking differentials for the front, the center, and the rear, a G-Wagon feature that makes them one of the best off-road vehicles, period, even to this day. Below here, we have the air conditioning controls, which can be adjusted based on your fan speed and temperature. And of course, a Mercedes-Benz radio, which, as you can see here, currently works and is hooked up for the Mercedes-Benz Dolby system there. Below that, we have a pocket, our cigarette lighter, we get an ashtray. And here is the big physical shifter for our 5-speed automatic transmission, which can also be manually shifted in the 1st through 4th gears. You get a nice parking brake here, power window switches, your heated seat switches, and even the power mirror controls. And then finally in the back, we have the shifter for our 4-wheel drive modes. As you can see here, it's currently in high, as this vehicle is a full-time 4-wheel drive vehicle, but it can be shifted into low as your traction situation demands it. Up high here, we do of course get sun visors that are even backlit in this particular instance, as you can see there. And if we go ahead and take a look, we have our other controls for the lights and even the actual sunroof. So very simple, robust, but everything in here has a functional purpose and doesn't overwhelm you with screens like modern cars. Under the hood is a naturally aspirated M112 3.2-liter V6, rated for 212 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque, which is then paired with a 5-speed automatic transmission and a dual-range transfer case for full-time 4-wheel drive, with the option to shift it into 4-low as needed. This vehicle also features locking front, center, and rear differentials, a feature which was for a long time specific to the G-Wagon series. Now, these are fairly heavy vehicles, vehicles, and therefore the 0 to 60 time is 10.9 seconds with a top speed of 109 miles per hour. One of the cool things about this engine bay in particular is the fact that you'll see a lot of the original Mercedes components, including this stamped radiator, along with Bosch or Mercedes badges on various other components, and even stickers which are in Japanese due to its original delivery to AMG Japan in 1999. Very cool as far as this vehicle goes, with a very, very smooth and reliable powertrain from the golden era of Mercedes-Benz. So what's it like to drive this 1999 Mercedes-Benz G320? Well, in a lot of ways, it drives like a lot of the modern G-Wagons. The build quality is incredibly robust. You have this high up seating position that gives you far visibility, and because of the boxy nature and a lot of the glass also being fairly vertical or upright, that makes it that much easier to see out of. You have this big green screen here in terms of everything that you can see. The 8 pillars being almost exactly vertical makes it really easy to see out the vehicle basically in any direction that you look. Not to mention you have all these other mirrors and things available at your disposal to use as you please. The vehicle drives quite well. The V6 is quite smooth as far as acceleration goes. The vehicle is actually quite nimble. You think it would feel like a big and bulky truck, but it doesn't. It still is body on frame construction, so you do get a little bit of bouncing from those coil springs as you go around, but honestly it's a really nice experience. You still get that very dense Mercedes soundproofing where you basically hear nothing on the exterior, which is incredibly impressive. You could be next to a construction zone and you wouldn't hear anything on the inside of your Mercedes G-Wagon, which is quite impressive. And there's a reason that these things have been around for so long and continue to sell so well, because the build quality of these is immense. And this particular G-Wagon just has such a special, cool story to go along with it. And the engine has plenty of power too. It just gets up and goes as you need it to. The 5-speed is pretty smooth as far as transmission goes. Torque converter automatic there. And it's just generally a nice vehicle to drive. The disc brakes make it pretty easy to stop. You'd be surprised how well this drives. I know the year can be a bit deceiving, but you have to remember that this vehicle is part of that whole run of first-generation G-Wagons. It really is impressive just how smooth this vehicle is to drive. And you combine that with all the luxuries. You can take this on a long trip. You actually get those back seats, and it also works as a great off-road vehicle. One of the other benefits is, you know, with things like the turn signals there on the front fenders, if you off-road this vehicle, that's a very easy point to know where your wheels are in regards to the rest of the vehicle, so you can place them exactly where you want it. Really, when you think of engineering, Mercedes is usually the first company manufacturer that comes to mind. And this vehicle is no exception. The engineering that goes into the layout, the nice tactile buttons and feedbacks, and the way that this thing drives is clear of just how much effort and engineering went into this vehicle and what makes the G-Wagon so special. So there you have it. That is a quick look at this luxury four-wheel drive, very off-road capable SUV, which happens to be the G320 3-door short wheelbase with a very special story. Sold new by AMG Japan in 1999 as a left-hand drive vehicle, then imported to Canada, and now it's here in the United States, where it has less than 88,000 original kilometers. That's less than 55,000 miles US. And if you wanted to get your hands on something like this, well, I have great news. It's for sale. It's heading up for auction on Bring a Trailer, where it will be selling with no reserve as offered from Casio Motors. So this is your chance to get a very unique, very rare vehicle with a very exciting story with badges to prove it, and even the plates on the inside. But with that, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you could leave me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. Consider getting subscribed for more content like this in the future. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.